Alright, as you see here, we have our early bell strike clock. This one looks like from Scotland. This, they can get that on the video or not. Kilsyth is a town in Scotland. The clockmaker's name is James Gillies. I wasn't able to really find much information online about using that name as a search. Maybe if you folks know anything about it, you can comment on the video. Maybe you've worked on the clock in the past with that name on it, if you're a clockmaker. All right, let's begin. Somebody put this large, very long shut-off lever, added it to it. It's functional, so I'll leave it on. It's what the client is used to. Let's start by cutting off this, the end of this catgut off here. Since we won't be reusing that. We'll just cut it here so we can get rid of it. We have our pulleys here. Looks like obviously these are replacement pulleys. Take the seat board off. All right, we'll take this shut-off lever off here. Very interesting. I thought to do it that way. That aside. There's a long screw in there put in there. Okay, you can see the date wheel here. See the rack and the rack tail. You got the snail here. Begin by taking the rack hook off here. And then the set off / warning lever. We can take our rack off. Make sure the gathering pallet's out of the way. And it wasn't out of the way. There it is. Take this pin out here. Just spin a little bit so that it's free and clear to pull the pin out. There we go. Now we'll take this little nut off here. Alright, now we should be able to lift the snail and hour wheel off all at one time. This is the minute wheel here. We can see somebody has scratched a T, it looks like, up here for the indicate the top of the bridge here, which is good. You want to make sure you put that in the right orientation, because sometimes if you don't, this doesn't center up properly. This one we're going to do an overhaul on. It's a little bit dirty, has some bushing wear. There we go, and we'll take this little nut here. We can unscrew it off the top here of the gathering pallet. See if we can carefully loosen that. It may just be pressed on. And I think it is. There it is. And pry this gathering pallet off. See if we can do it this way here. There we go. Now that's pretty much everything here except for the rack spring. We'll just leave that on there for now. Now, you know what? I'm going to take it off. I like the way that it's actually up here on top of the post here. Well, we may try to do something about that. Okay, remove that. There's no pin there when that post is. Let's take our bell off here. Now see, there's no leather here, or a piece of leather on it. I usually like to put a piece of leather here. It kind of deadens the thunk as the hammer hits the bell, and it actually helps to keep the bell tight too. So we'll put a piece of like maybe 1/8 inch leather or so underneath here when we put the bell back on. Let's take the bridge off here where the pallets are. Move the stand off over a little bit. Take the pallets out. I don't know what this tall case looks like because this is actually I'm doing for a friend of mine who owned a clock shop. So he picks up the clocks and then brings them to me, and then I do them, and he delivers them and sets them up. That back in there. Now we'll just turn it, move it over, and we'll take the pins out. It's in there really tight. There we go. That one's loose. That one's tight. I'm going to lift the top plate off here. There's the hammer goes flying out since it's under spring tension. And there you go, it's the front plate. Take the fly, the warning wheel. It's the wheel where the gathering pallet gets attached to. This is what they might call the pinwheel. This is what lifts the hammers. Escape wheel. Now we'll mark these. This being the strike. Oh, somebody already scratched an S on it there. And an S is there, so you can see that or not. SS, so we know that this is a strike. Might want to scratch a little S here. Looks like they actually got this washer upside down. We'll have to take a look at that. See why that's upside down. See if we can take the pin out. Because when we clean this, we want to disassemble it. See, that's the way it's supposed to go. Anyway, well, we'll figure that out when we go to assemble it. See if we can get this remaining cable out of here. There we go. Rest of the time train out. Once again, this is upside down, this washer. We don't need to mark this one, but it does have a W here, which generally means for the working train or time train. Take this pin out. All right. Get this weight cable out of here. We'll take this off here just so it's a little more manageable to clean this plate. You can see, folks, that's how dirty this clock was. when you have to go wash your hands after disassembling it, you know you've you've got a dirty clock. All right, let's go clean it. Now, I've taken a break from this project to complete a couple of other projects. We're back into it now. I've cleaned the movement, polished the pivots, and done the bushing work. If you'd like to see more info on how I do the pivot polishing and bushing work, you can click on the link that I'll include in this video. This will take you to the Ansonia restoration video where I cover these processes in more detail. Now, I have these cables here, and this might be controversial for some of you folks who believe that you should use catgut, which is what they originally used on a clock of this age. But I've always liked to use the brass spun cables. I think the catgut actually isn't as durable as these cables, and I'm sure they would have used these cables if this technology was available to them back in the day. So I just like to use these. Now, if you have a clock like this particular one here, I'll tilt the camera up here for you. See that right there? You're going to use brass cables. That's what they originally used. You can't really see them, but they're there. You can see right there. But this tall case we're working on is not from that time period. But I find these brass cables, they just hold up very well, and I think they're, in the end, more durable than catgut. You still can get catgut these days if you want to replace it, and you're welcome to use the catgut if you like. For you, it's purely a personal thing, but I find my customers like the brass cable, and they like the brass cable with the look of the brass pendulum, if you have that type of pendulum on your clock. Even if you don't see it, you know, there's no glass in the door. When you open the door, they still see the brass cable. I think it looks nice. Anyway, let's put this on. Now, the tall case clock uses 10 feet of brass cable. Now, on, say, a Hershey clock, or maybe even a more modern tubular chime clock, usually they're only about 8 foot. But I've always found that 10-foot cables is a very good length to start with for these earlier bell strike tall case clocks. So we're going to put the cable in here. You can see there's a hole right here. You can do this with the wheel installed, the main wheel installed, or not. I'm going to put a little bend in the cable here, just like that. And we're going to fish it through here. And we're going to try to come out here with it, just like that. And we'll just tie a knot in it. Try to stay on camera here. Be careful with this cable. I will say that you can stick yourself. The ends of the cable can be somewhat sharp. And if you have like a little end sticking out, which often you do, it will stick into you. Make sure this knot is tight. Now we can just fish it back through there, pull on it. Usually like to leave a little extra there. That sort of keeps the knot from coming back out or poking back through the hole, which could then interfere with the main wheel here. So we'll just kind of push it in there. And that one's in, so we'll do the next one. See if I can tilt this camera down a little bit here. Well, there, hopefully we'll have everything on camera. Tie our knot. And you want to try to pull the knot tight here. Poke that down in there. There. Okay, that one's done. I'm going to put on some plastic gloves here so I don't finger this these nice clean plates up here. And we can begin the reassembly. This is the time side. Somebody actually had already marked this W, which means, or stands for the working train. You can mark these if you want. I do. I usually put an S on them. Scratch an S somewhere inconspicuous, or T for time, or both. I want to mention to you that this particular click here was replaced by somebody, and it wasn't engaging properly here into the teeth. It just wasn't shaped right, so I did have to do some reshaping on this one here to make sure that it engages into the teeth here a little better. We don't want anything to slip off, or when you're winding the clock up, have the weight come down on you because the ratchet slipped off. Would not be a good thing. Put that in there. Put our center wheel in here. This goes in here. That's where the gathering pellet goes on that wheel there. This is our warning wheel. Put the strike hammer in here. Now we can sort of set this up sort of preliminarily here. Generally you want the warning pin to be across from the warning lever, which would be in around here somewhere. So I usually try to put it up near where the fly is. And we'll put the gathering pallet wheel down about where it ought to be. Somewhere around there. We may have to slip the plates apart to re-index this. All right, let's put the plate on here. And we'll put a taper pin up here and we'll see what the strike sequence looks like. Or I should say strike indexing. Sorry, gathering palette, look at that. Put our rack on here. And our rack hook. You can see that's been repaired. See if this works better this way. I want that hammer to drop just as the gathering pallet stops on the pin. Let's see, that's not going to do because the hammer is lifted up in that position. So we're going to have to put it back in the other position. I want to see if we can improve it. No, that didn't improve it. Let's see if I can take this pin out here, and we're going to see if we can re-index it so that just as the hammer drops is when the gathering pallet locks. And it's a little tricky. You have to kind of get in here and disengage the pinwheel. Of course, everything comes apart when you do this. Put all the wheels back into place here and the fly. And you can see, let's get that off. And you can see where the pin is right now. It's right up about where the fly is. That's about where you want it. You don't want that pin right there where the slot is, or the warning lever protrudes through, because that'll hang up possibly on the pin, and then your clock, you know, can stall the strike being jammed up. It would stall the clock out. So you want to make sure that pin is roughly across from the warning lever. Gives you the wheel can rotate 180 degrees, and then the pin will be stopped by the warning lever. This is the warning lever here. Looking at the face of the warning lever, there's actually almost no wear there. So somebody did polish this in the past, so there's not too much we have to do there. If there was a wear here, a wear mark, especially a deep one, you'd want to polish that out, because the pin can hang up on this and the train will not be released. We can drop this in here. It's like that. The other thing I want to look at too is a couple of things here. Take this gathering pallet pack off here. Pressed it down a little bit too hard with my fingers. There. This little edge right here, you want to have a nice polish on that. Turn an extra light on, I forgot to turn it on. So we'll do that. We'll get our polishing wheels out. We'll do some polishing on that. Gonna polish any wear marks out here. Using our graduated polishing wheels, just so that the rack pin won't be hung up on the gathering pallet when it's released by the rack hook. You can see what that surface looks like there. Nicely polished. Let's take a look at the pin here. I'm going to make sure that's got a nice high polish on it too. It's a little bit rough. Make sure there's no flats in it where the gathering pallet rests on it. I'm going to polish it a little bit here. Go back over to the vise here and polish it over here. Alright, let's put another taper pin over there on the other side that's missing one. We're going to also need to install this rack spring here. Let's see. I didn't like the way it was installed before, but it might have been that way because of this shutoff lever that somebody installed. Let's see how we can do this here. Find our screw here. Let's see if we can get away with it like that. Let's lubricate this before we go any further. It's easier to put lubrication here in the pivot holes when you can easily get access to them. As long as we're done our re-indexing. Other side. Put our tension spring on here for the hand tension. Cannon pinion. This is the bridge. Somebody has marked this T for top, so you want to put it back in that orientation. If you notice, one of these screws is a little shorter. I wanted to point this out than the other one. This one here is the one that will go in the top because you cannot protrude through and interfere with the pins on the pinwheel, which is the wheel that lifts the hammer. I'll show you this in a second. Right here, if you can see that or not, is where that screw would protrude through and possibly interfere with the pins here on the pinwheel. So that's why that screw is shorter than the other one. So you want to put that one on the top. If you put the longer one in there, you probably would have blocked the strike from working, and if you didn't know what the heck was going on, the strike was stuck, it would take you a moment to figure it out. Put our warning lever back on. Actually, we'll put this wheel on. This has to be indexed properly. Sometimes if somebody has made a mark, I see somebody did make a mark here in the past. Don't know whether that's correct. We can find out here in a minute. And we'll turn the hands around. Oh, see, that's not going to be right. So. Should be somewhere in that realm there, let's see. That would be good right there. Make sure this gatherer is seated on here. Make sure the train is indexed properly still. That's good. Now there's a little washer that somebody had put on to hold the gathering pallet on. It's this one right here. It has an extra measure, so we can put that back on and tap it down. Let's go on the other way. It's good. Just to make sure that the gathering pallet doesn't hop off there to a normal operation. I like to put a little bit of lubrication on this pipe here. May or may not be necessary, because this is brass on brass. Wouldn't hurt to have a little lubrication there on that. This being the brass power wheel and snail. We're going to slip this on here. We have to index this. Fortunately, this is relatively easy to mix, as we'll just pop the hour hand on here. That'll be the 12 o'clock position. But to make sure that's straight up and down, we can look at the snail also. That's a little bit better. See how it drops all the way down for the 12 o'clock position. I'll have to put some lubrication on that strike hammer spring. That was 12. I'm going to bend this pin in a little bit here because it wouldn't hurt for this rack to hit. It'll rest against this pin on the 12 o'clock position, and that's exactly what I want it to do. That's good. Now we do have to get the hour, the date wheel on here. So we're going to sneak that on there. I'm going to put this down here in this orientation, right down there. Oops, it's got to go here. Okay, we'll try that. have to be careful with this date wheel, because if you don't have it set right, this can come around and interfere with the snail. So, and we'll test that. We'll make sure that's out of the way. Ideally, you want the date to shift right around 12 o'clock midnight, but anywhere between 11 and 12 should be fine. All right, let's put some pins in here. Hold these levers in. You can take the hour hand off. I'm just going to spin this around here so that get a pin in there. Okay, I'm going to cut this pin off sure so that it won't interfere with that as it comes around. It looks like there's a nut here that somebody... Yeah, there's actually some threads on there. So... Okay, that nut's on there tight. This is this shut-off lever here. That I do not like. Okay, that interferes with the rack spring. Jeez. All right. I'll have to move it that way. Looks like the pallets are in pretty decent shape. I think somebody actually maybe refaced these pallets at one time. In other words, they've soldered a piece of steel because of the wear. I might touch them up with the polishing wheels a little bit. Good, and we'll put the pallets in here. And we do have to put the bell stand on here. Lubricate the pallets here, the arbor. And put a drop of oil on the pallet faces. Looks good. Let's get this seat board on here. Tie these cables off. Not sure why they have this piece of wood back here, which would cause the movement to tilt forward. We're going to leave it on. We'll see how it works out. My thoughts were that it maybe would keep the cable from running backwards, that old cat cut cable that was on there. It's less likely to have that issue with the brass cable. But this is ridged, so it's not likely to happen really at all with this type of a design. Now, some of these barrels are smooth, and it's more likely that could be an issue. So I don't know what the case looks like that this is installed in. Without knowing what kind of case this is installed and any particulars on that end, I'm not going to make a modification to the seat board. Let's make sure we don't cross over the cable here. I don't have to make this super duper tight, just snug it up there. I'm going to put our cable through the pulley here. Now this hole is a little bit large. I'll show you the type of knot that we're going to tie here. I'm going to put these this washer on it too. This will help keep the cable from pulling back down through the seat board. Well, we'll tie a special knot that will ensure that it won't pull down through the seat board. This is the way I do it, and this is the way I was taught many years ago. We'll just double up on this cable like that. So look like that. Hold it up close to the camera as I do this. And then we'll just wrap the cable around like that and pull it taut. So that it looks something like that. Same to the other side. Okay, that's on. And one thing I wanted to do was I noticed that there was nothing underneath the bell here. Most of these tall case clocks that work on have a piece of leather actually underneath the bell. It kind of helps keep the bell stay tight. The nut doesn't have any kind of a lock washer on it. They didn't have that kind of material washers back then. So this helps keep the bell secure when you tighten the nut down. And also, I think, kind of deadens the thud of the hammer. The bell will still ring, but the thud of the hammer, I think, is deadened a little bit with a piece of leather. So let me see what I have here. I can put underneath there. I have some thick leather somewhere. This stuff works pretty good. I have a leather punch here. You could use this or just a drill. We'll break out the leather punch. We'll use this. I don't use it that often. Probably faster just to drill a hole in the leather, but all right, let's just punch a hole here. Punch a hole in that piece right there. And we'll just cut this off. We can set the bell on there. Put that away. And we'll just tighten this nut down here. And let's go ahead and put the hands on it. I'm going to put that shut-off lever on later. I can understand why somebody would want a shut-off lever. These kind of clocks were meant to be heard throughout the house back in the time period when these were first made, so that you could hear the time no matter where you were in the house, maybe even outside the house. But this day and age, it's not necessary, and they are quite loud. Turn it up that way there. See if that works for a taper pin. Let's see which way this fits better. Many times these holes are tapered here, and the pin will go through, go further in from one side than the other. Let's see if it works better on this side. Nope, the other way is better. See that? So we had it right. All right, we're going to go set it up on the test stand. I'll move you over there. What I wanted to show you was I did put a little bit of grease on that section right there, the spring for the hammer, to keep the sound down. You could actually hear the scraping sound as the hammer acted on that spring. And put just a touch of grease, light, very light grease. Oops, I pulled that off. I'll fix that. Right here on this pin, this locking pin. This is why I don't like this, the way this racked spring is kind of up like that, but it needs to be up like that to be away from this shutoff lever that somebody added. But it'll work. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the weights on here. Let's wind the cable up. See if I can get a better key here for this. It's a little bit of a bigger key here. See if I got the right amount of cable on here. We'll hang a weight on.
These are both roughly about the same size weights, so.
That's not bad. A little extra cable. It's about an inch or two more longer than it needs to be, so I'll just untie that knot and just maybe double up on it a couple of times so you can see how that kind of works with a knot here. You can actually undo it and double up on it again once or twice. Just take up a little extra length if you need to. We'll line this one up.
Hang the weight on it.
See how that movement is tilted forward with this piece of wood? I don't like that, but I'm not going to change it because I don't know why it's done without seeing the case. There we are. That might take, again, a little extra cable there, but not too bad. Like I said, I'll just double up maybe one more time on that knot. All right, let's see what happens when I start it up here. A little bit out of beat. I'll just adjust the bead on it a little bit, just bend the crutch. Wrong direction. A little bit of oil where the pendulum goes through the crutch wire here. I like the way this hand is kind of bent. It's been repaired before. Bend it a little bit there. Now I'm going to take this, I'm going to kind of move this around here so you can see how this works. It's very rare to have a tall case clock that has a half-hour strike on this era, so you're not going to have a half-hour strike most likely. Turn the minute hand up here. Should lift up high enough to drop that rack. See that? And this hand is really bent. And we have to repair that hand. Yeah, that's getting, that was repaired there, and it's going to break off. You can see it. So I'll have to repair that. The way I'll do that is I'll solder on a piece of backing, like a piece of brass perhaps, onto the back side of that. You solder what's there and then solder on a piece of brass backing, and it should, with some silver solder, that should make it sturdy enough that it will hold up. As you can see how it works. Now, you notice how the fly here is able to slip on its shaft. You can see that right there. That's what you want. You want it to be able to do that. Not real loose, but semi-loose. So when it stops, when this wheel, or when this gathering pallet locks here, the momentum of this is absorbed by the fly spinning like that. So you don't want a sudden lock, which can, eventually damage the teeth here. Many times, and I worked with a gentleman many years ago when I was a young man, who, if these were loose, if the spring was, in other words, broken or gone or weak, the spring right here, he would just solder, I should say, the fly to the shaft, which is a no-no. You don't want to do that. You want to, this needs to have, and this is true of most clocks, of all clocks that I've worked on, these have to be semi-loose, friction tight, in order to keep the train from bouncing like that excessively, and to keep damage or to thwart any damage that might occur up here on the teeth. Where this suddenly locks and this wants to keep going, or down here when this suddenly locks, I just say, teeth down here can actually get damaged from this wheel down here. This is fixed rigidly on the shaft. So just a little note there, I did have to replace that because this actually had gotten so weak that it was not even working. So what somebody did was they actually crimped this down here so tight that this fly barely moved, which is not good, so I had to correct that. Alright folks, that'll do it for this rebuild on an early tall case clock. If you have any suggestions, any pointers, please put them in the comments. And there'll be a lot of folks, I'm sure, who are skilled clock repairers who may watch this channel, and I appreciate any input. I'm always learning, even though I've done this for many years. I continue to learn from other folks. And this is what I'm trying to do with these videos, is to put these videos out there, is to help folks who maybe are just getting into the hobby or even the profession and want some pointers on the various clocks, because there are tons and tons of different types of clocks. And each have their little quirks. So it's helpful to put these videos up there. Hopefully it is anyway, I should say. To help you out in case you get one of these clocks coming across your workbench. Folks, if you do like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Comment if you like. And if you do like the content on the video, please subscribe. And if you do subscribe, don't forget to hit that bell notification. That's going to let you know when I upload another video. It'll be another type of clock. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. But anyway, there'll be another video coming, and there'll be more to come after that. Folks, stay safe out there, be good, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.